everyone. I'm Andy Chaffo, Vice President of Human Resources for Control Point Associates. Today I'm joined by three esteemed colleagues who will talk to you about the land surveying profession and bring you beyond the boundary. To my far left, I have Patty Brooks, with over 45 years of experience in land surveying profession. Licensed as land surveyor in 1988, she studied land surveying at SUNY Dutchess and is a second-generation land surveyor. Her expertise in land surveying and land use planning makes her a valued partner to local and state governments, public agencies, and private commercial developers. Prior to joining Control Point Associates as branch manager, she was most recently the president of Brooks & Brooks Land Surveyors, PC. Patty is a trustee and past president of the New York State Association of Professional Land Surveyors and currently serves as state representative on the board of directors of the National Society of Professional Land Surveyors. John Lynch has been with Control Point Associates for 30 of his 40 years in the land surveying industry. John maintains professional land surveying licenses in 17 states. In addition, John holds a New Jersey professional planner license. As director of survey, John ensures all quality control guidelines are followed and implements a total quality mindset regarding CPA policies and procedures. John conducts ongoing in-house training seminars to advance the training and overall competency of field and office personnel, and is a sought-after mentor. And Jim Sens, with over 37 years of experience in professional land surveying, geospatial, and consulting services. Jim is licensed in 6 states and is a professional planner in the state of New Jersey. As branch manager of Control Point's Warren, New Jersey office since 2016, Jim has expanded its growth in public market sectors and has enhanced client satisfaction. Jim passionately believes in staff development, mentoring, and maximizing the latest technologies to achieve Control Point's goals. Jim obtained his Bachelor of Science degree in Survey Engineering from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, where he is an adjunct professor teaching boundary control and legal principles and boundary line analysis. He is past president and fellow member of the New Jersey Society of Professional Surveyors and is an active in the New Jersey Society of National Society of Professional Surveyors. So Jim, Patty, John, what inspired you to become a land surveyor, get into this profession? Patty, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. As you mentioned, I am a second-generation land surveyor. I was very strong in math at school, and I thought I wanted to be an algebra teacher. And my dad said, well, you know, being an algebra teacher is great, but you not only love math, you also love the outdoors, and you love history and research. So how about if you try surveying? If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to being an algebra teacher. But I fell in love with it immediately, and that's how I ended up becoming a...
And how long was your dad a land surveyor for?
He actually was licensed in 1959. He started in the service. He was drafted in 1949, and he was in the service. And then when he came out, he worked for a local surveying company who mentored him, and he became licensed in 1959. He retired in 1989 when I took over the business.
Nice. And Jim, how about you? How did you get into this profession?
Well, I was planning on being a forester, and I knew in high school that that's what I wanted to do, and I knew that surveying was part of the curriculum there. We had a trigonometry teacher in our high school that had been a surveyor, and he ran a little course. So that's where I started to really get into it. I went and I got my forestry degree, and I started working for some consulting foresters and some logging companies, and I said, you know, this is really kind of hard work. I like being outside, and I liked all that, but it was kind of physically demanding, and I'm like, I'd like to use my brain a little bit more, and, you know, so I went back and I looked at some of my surveying notes and thought about that. And I was living in northern New Hampshire at the time, and my girlfriend was in New Jersey. So we both got a little homesick. So, like a lot of people in surveying, I came down and I said, well, I need a job, and there's not a whole lot of consulting foresters in northwest New Jersey. So I got a job as a surveyor, and really loved the work. Like Patty, I liked the history of it and the research, and the rest is history, as they say.
Sure. How about you, John?
Well, both my parents, my father was a mortgage banker and my mother was a math and science teacher. So I had a lot of, exposure to liking math when I was a kid. And I went I also was a forestry major at Rutgers. And when I got out of school, there really weren't a lot of jobs. So I was looking around, and I had one survey class at Rutgers. And I said, I really like that. And I really like to work outside. And I wanted to do something like that. And so I applied for a job, and I got it. And I was they didn't want to hire me because I was a college student, but they said, okay, we hired another guy instead of you, and he's not working out. Come work for us, and then we'll see what happens. And 2 months later, he was fired, and they kept me. So
2 forestry degrees. Have you ever used your degrees in forestry as a help to your land surveying?
Oh, yes, the tree identification.
Yeah,
That was one of the biggest classes in forestry. It was called dendrology, and you had to know all the trees. I only got a C in it, but it's way better than the field guys when they come in, or the field people when they come in and say, "What kind of tree is this?"
Well, you can get a C in forestry as long as you have an A in land surveying. That's what really matters.
I got an A in that class too. That was another thing. What reason why I liked it.
So now you've told us how you entered the profession. Maybe talk to us a little bit about your career progression since becoming land surveyors. Jim, you want to start?
Well, I think probably most everyone's going to say, I started in the field predominantly as, kind of a third. I mean, my first day was, here's a machete, go cut that way. And that was really my introduction. But
your fingers.
Yeah, make sure you keep all your fingers and et cetera. But, as I did that, I progressed pretty quickly. I had several courses in surveying at UNH. So I progressed pretty quickly through that. And was running a crew fairly quickly. And we really spent a lot of time inside and outside. So we really, kind of did both. And after a while, I love being out in the field. I'm in predominantly now, but there's really not a day, honestly. Well, maybe if it's rainy and cold and really cold and snowy, I don't want to be out. But there's not really a day that I don't miss being out in the field. Sort of the independence of it and everything is great. But as I started getting older, I started to gravitate more towards being inside. I really found that I loved the sort of the legal end of everything and the research and the old deeds and the just understanding, again, the legal aspects, easements and all those kinds of things. So it was natural for me to kind of move inside and gravitate towards, reviewing title commitments and understanding all of that. And, with that, I had the degree in forestry, but I wanted to also get a degree in surveying. So I went back to school after I was already in the profession for a while, and went back and learned things about measurement science and analysis and error theory and all those kinds of things that are really important to surveying. And, was really committed to getting licensed. And that, once I got licensed, I got some additional licenses in additional states. And, that's really how it all progressed for me. I was running a couple other survey firms, survey department before I came to Control Point. It's been a great journey.
Great, thank you. Patty, how about you? You touched on some of your passions and why you got into the business, but take us on your career journey.
Sure. Yeah, no, basically, we didn't have a surveying per se program in our area, so I went to Dutchess for computer science, a degree in computer science, but they had surveying courses as well that I took. So I took my first semester full-time college, and then I had the opportunity to get a full-time job with the New York State Department of Transportation. So from there, I was going to school part-time and working full-time at DOT. I didn't want to start working for my dad right away because I thought it would be great to get exposure in different locations.
Yeah.
So that worked great for about a year and a half. And then unfortunately, my dad was in a serious motorcycle accident. So I took a leave of absence and ended up eventually leaving DOT to assist him with running his business. So as with Jim, as with I think every surveyor, you start off in the field. At that point in time, I was doing also the Leroy drafting. I would sit at the computer and, my dad would mentor me through a boundary survey. So it was kind of trial by fire. And I did end up getting my license when I was 29 because, day in and day out, I was kind of at his heel, whether it was in the field or in the office or in the clerk's office doing deed research. So you learn a lot very quickly that way. And that's something that we've tried to bring forward to our staff. After being with my dad for 10 years, once I got my license, he retired, and then Rick and I purchased 2 family businesses. He's a third generation surveyor, and we formed Brooks and Brooks Land Surveying, and we had a wonderful career there until we were fortunate enough to be purchased by Control Point. So that's kind of our saga and our journey, and we've loved every minute of it.
And you've been a great addition to the Control Point team. You and your staff are just wonderful. So, we're very thankful that you're part of our CPA team.
Yeah, it's a mutually beneficial opportunity that we both had, and it's been a great ride.
Yep. John, 17 survey licenses. So tell us about the first one.
Okay.
And then what was your thinking to go for number 2, 3, 7, 10?
Well, when I first started, I started in the field, and we had 3-person crews then, so it was a lot easier to learn and ask questions as you were going. So I worked as a rodman, which is what I'm called, and an instrument operator for my first 3 years. And that was when I was like, I really like this. I want to, do this as a career. So I started going to class at night to get the other, because I already had the forestry degree, but I needed other classes in order to, and I knew that I wanted to get a license too. So I started going to Middlesex College at night to get all the classes that I was still missing to qualify to sit for the license. And I also got my first license in New Jersey at 29. And, I always, whenever I see these advertisements about the Young Surveyors Society, I always think, that was me once. But I think it's it's a good time to get, you want to get seriously into your career before you get too old and too many things happen. It makes it hard. But then, once I had New Jersey, that's when I find my
That was your first license?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Okay.
Because at the time in New Jersey, there was also an acceleration because the state had passed a law that you had to have a 4-year degree, BS degree in land surveying, and I didn't have that. But they grandfathered everyone that was still working, and you had to get it by 1991 or 1992. So I applied before I even had all the requirements, and at the time the board was really generous. They would review your application and tell you what you were still missing, and get these things, and then we'll review it again. So I actually submitted it twice before you're good, you can sit for the exam. And I passed the whole exam. At the time, it was 16 hours over 2 days, and I passed the exam the first time I took it.
Cool, thank you. Jim, Patty, you both manage staff, and Control Point offers several programs designed to encourage professional development. How do you encourage your staff to avail themselves of these opportunities and to progress their careers in land surveying? Jim, what do you think?
Well, I think you have to take advantage and encourage everyone to take advantage of the things that John does and the training that we have. But to me, it's staff mentoring is really a day-to-day interpersonal situation. Work with the staff, explain what you're doing, why you're doing it, what your thought process is, and you can kind of tell that those who sort of gravitate towards it and start to get the big picture, and once you get that and you've kind of got your hooks into them, right, they're now engaged in all the different aspects of it, then I do encourage them to take some courses. Even if their ultimate goal is not to get a 4-year degree, but some of that theoretical knowledge is really important to everything that we do, and also their growth in their professional growth. So that's kind of how I do it. I certainly encourage them to take advantage of everything we do here. But again, it's that interpersonal connection with them and really hands-on, one-on-one, spending the time with the staff and availing yourself to them and the knowledge that I have, because as you'd mentioned earlier, as a professor, I like to do that, and that's an important part of mentorship. And my knowledge, I want to instill everything that I know into my staff. I want them to know more than me, honestly, right? But I want them to know everything I know.
I always say surround yourself with intelligent people because they will help you advance your goals. It's very important to do that.
Great.
Patty, I think you have 3 or 4 licensed surveyors in Highland.
We do. There are 4 of us,
There are 4 of you.
Rick, myself, Chris, and David. So that was one of the enticements of Control Point Associates when Rick and I were looking to sell our company, is that they have the same goals and forward thinkingness in putting a very, very high priority on continuing education. John, of course, is very involved in the CST program, which we always encouraged our employees to participate in. All of the employees that we have right now have been with us since Brooks & Brooks, with the exception of one that we hired out of college last June. So they're in a learning mode, and they want to keep learning. Not only are there 4 licensed land surveyors in the company, but our 5th just got approval at the end of December to sit for the exam in the spring.
Great.
So we will soon have 5 licensed land surveyors in our company. We had 2 employees that took their UAV FAA
Part 107.
Part 107, and they received their licenses in the past year. So we now have 3 in our office that are UAV operators. I think it's the incentives that Control Point provides are great, but as Jim said, the incentives also have to come from inside the individuals. And I think that pretty much from the time that you hire them. You're kind of looking for people who are hungry for knowledge and understand the opportunities that are being provided to them. So we're pretty lucky.
Yeah, if you have people who are eager to learn, we can provide all of the tools, the training, the support, but they have to have that passion to get up to that next level, to dedicate their own time, both in studying and going to classes, taking exams. And it's not easy. It does take dedication, and it takes support from management to do that.
And actually, the hardest part is the application. Because once you get the application, once it gets approved, then you're going to get a license eventually, because the tests are designed to test your overall breadth of knowledge. So the hardest part is getting accepted to take it. Yeah.
And back to what Jim was saying, that's where we come in as managers mentoring them, because right now we have somebody who is interested in knowing that he wants to become licensed. So you tell them now what they need to start documenting, how they need to start preparing for applying for that application, which is the most rigorous part of it. So that's where we come in as leaders.
I have like a daily diary that every day I write down what I did that day. So when I went the first time to apply, I had to go through all the books and see what I did. You have to give the board, when you apply, a breakdown of your experience, and they actually want to know, like, weeks and months, how much, and they give you a list of maybe about 10 or 12 different tasks, and they want to know what percentage of each of them that you did in your daily work.
And then they also want to see progressive experience. So we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. We touched on that. You can't be an instrument operator, for example, for 20 years and sit for your exam. You have to show you've taken on more responsibility, you've taken on more tasks, and have a broader base of knowledge than just some specific task, right? You have to be able to show you've advanced your career, and I think that as Patty and I have talked about, that's part of really the professional land surveyors in the firms to help people not only know technically what they have to put into their application, but to make sure that they've gotten that progressive experience that, the board is going to want to see and, quite frankly, you need.
John, quality is one of Control Point's core values, and I know you are involved with a lot of QC, checking of plans, but how do you instill a quality mindset in the people that you work with?
We have to encourage them to do even though surveying every day is different and you have a different kind of project you're working on and they all have different requirements, but following a set checklist of tasks that goes into what they're doing is we have to. So I've actually written most of the checklists that the firm uses. So that's what it is. We try to lay out the scope of what they're going to do and make sure that they check everything and follow the checklist every time they do it. Because we found over time that usually if there's an issue with a job something was incorrect, it was because someone skipped a step on the checklist when they were doing it.
So as a 40-year professional land surveyor, do you still use a checklist?
Yes.
You do, because it is important, right? It's a roadmap to quality and success. We've all driven somewhere and followed directions carefully that first time we went, and then the second time we went, we didn't, and we got lost. And I think anything that you do, whether it's music, whether it's land surveying, whatever you're doing, there are certain steps you have to follow, and those checklists are incredibly important for us. We instill that, and I know as you said, there's different checklists for different kinds of tasks. Incredibly important. So thank you for ensuring that's.
We even some of them are. It's almost redundant to the point of being silly, but we have a checklist for the field crew. One of the things is, did you put all your equipment back in the truck? And then just the day before yesterday, I got an email from Connecticut. Someone was doing survey work and they left a tripod and a backside and a laser reflector on the side of the road. Forgot about it. And that's several $100s worth of equipment.
Yep.
But they never looked in the back of the truck to say, hey, there's a set of legs missing from this. All the survey crews have. Usually when you open up their truck, there's they usually use like an 8-inch PVC pipe, and they slide the legs into the pipe. So one of their pipes was empty. So all they had to do was look at it and say, where's that?
Nothing there.
Nothing's there.
Sure. And if they were doing their checklist, they would have come across that.
Or at least
piece of equipment and said it's gone.
Put everything away. Yeah.
I wish I could say I never left anything.
Oh, and I have done that too. It's very hard. Yeah.
I think we've all learned that lesson the hard way once or twice.
Jim, you were an adjunct professor at NJIT. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you become an adjunct professor? What led you to do that? Tell us about some of your teaching experiences.
I came about doing it because the program coordinator was a gentleman named Dr. Josh Greenfeld, who was really an important mentor for me. Not inside my work environment, but outside. And it was funny. He came one summer to the firm that I was working at, and he was hoping he could get his surveying license in New Jersey. And I worked with him, hand in hand. He's like, you're really good at explaining this and breaking it down. The professor who was working there had unfortunately just had a heart attack. He wasn't able to continue. So he's like, we have an opening. Would you be interested in doing it? And I was like, sure. Why not? 12 or 15 years later, you find yourself still doing it, but it's a great rewarding experience. Meeting the students. The NJIT is not a traditional program. It's mostly night students, really all night students. A lot are already working in the profession, so they kind of have a sense of what we do. And working with them, similar to how I mentor the staff, that interpersonal connection is fantastic. The grading papers and the writing exams, that part not so much.
Control Point invests in college recruiting and high school recruiting. For someone interested in the land surveying profession, what advice would you give them to start their journey? Jim, we'll start with you.
Okay. So, I think you have to have, kind of an inquisitive mind. This isn't the direct answer to the question, but one thing that's I always found intriguing about surveying is, yes, there's math involved. There's an artistic component in putting together maps. There's a legal component that's intriguing. So someone who wants to, and there's a historic component as well. So someone who wants to get involved in surveying, you can go the traditional college route. A lot of people find their way to surveying in a sort of a circuitous way. But honestly, try it out. Maybe you get a job. Everybody in the surveying profession is looking for help. Get a job on a survey crew, or even if you have some CAD skills in the office, come to a firm like Control Point that is progressive in their way of thinking in education and investing in people, and just try and absorb as much as you can. And like anything else, it's not for everyone. But if all those elements intrigue you and spark an interest, you can continue on. You can, be a technician and not take a degree type path. I like to push everyone towards licensure. So I do like the formal education path, but there are dual paths to the industry and the profession. I think there's a lot of opportunity for young people in this profession, but I think the first step is really try it out. Go to a firm like Control Point or someone else who is going to invest in teaching, and try it on. See if you like it, and if you do, there's fantastic opportunity and a great, fun career will await you.
Thank you. Hattie, what do you say?
Yeah, we're very fortunate that our local high school has a Lunch and Learn program that we participate in every year. So we have the opportunity to go into the high school, and the students, we buy them pizza because that gets everybody excited. But the students actually have to sign up when they know what business is coming in to see if it's something that they might be interested in. So I think that exposing people to what land surveying is, because it still is a very small profession, not a lot of people know about it. And quite frankly, the profession has changed dramatically since the three of us with gray hair are sitting here. You have none, so it's important to continue that exposure. And I think that's one of the things that Control Point embodies is the evolution of surveying, and letting young people know that there is, as Jim said, not just one path. They could be interested in geographic information systems. They could be interested in computer-aided drafting. Our main computer-aided drafting tech came from the lighting industry. So there are so many more opportunities today. We all started off in the field, and that is one option, but it's not the only option anymore to get involved with the field of surveying. So expose them to all the different facets and see if one of those components fits in with them.
Do you think it's important for someone new to this industry to do both field and office work? Would that make them a more well-rounded surveyor? If
they want to become licensed, that really is the only way to become licensed, because they do need to be well-rounded. But fortunately, there also is a growing place for just technicians. So if you don't have an interest of becoming licensed, that doesn't mean you can't have a very lucrative, successful career in the land surveying industry.
Thank you, John.
There's a lot of new technology that should interest people that are, like, we have a whole generation of students now that they have smartphones, they have video games, and there's a lot of technology involved in surveying that 20 years ago didn't exist. So all of the surveys now, we can pretty much tie them into satellite control. We have UAVs that we can fly autonomously and with a controller-like device to fly over the site and take photos and map the site from the air, where 10, 15, 20 years ago you had to do that with a plane with pilots in it. Now you can use a small helicopter-like device, and they can fly the entire site. And we use this equipment every day now. So there's a lot of challenging technology, and the technology only continues to evolve. So if you're really into technology, surveying is definitely a career for you.
Yeah, sure enough, the advent of GPS and UAVs, or UAS, however you like to call the drone work, right? That's really been another evolution in how land surveyors do their business. So you can map out large areas of land and then send a terrestrial field crew in to do some of the more detailed work, but collect lots of data with drones. Patty, are you using drones in Highland?
We are. Not on every single job.
Sure.
It has to be job appropriate, and you have to make sure that you know what the benefits, but also the limitations are, because like any piece of equipment, you have to use it properly to get the best results. And that's why, as I said, we have 3 FAA certified drone operators in our office right now, and it's extremely beneficial in our projects. Sometimes we use it just for ortho, just to see the photograph, and sometimes we use it topographically, as long as you make sure that you understand that, as John was saying, the field crew still has to go out there and do a certain amount of ground truthing to be able to prove that the data you're getting is accurate.
Thank you.
And another technology we have now that we didn't have 20 years ago was laser scanners. We can go set up it looks like a transit, but you set it up and it'll scan the entire room, and you'll get the shape of all the pipes and all the wall distances and all the features, even the people if they don't move. And it's eye safe, but it's a whole new frontier of mapping. We can go into a building like this one and map the entire interior of the building, and you'll know exactly what the dimensions are between the walls and the ceilings and the columns and any type of design. If you want to put additional equipment in, you'll know if it can fit.
And if we do work like that, are we also taking photos at the same time?
Yes.
And do we match up that data?
Yes.
Right. And what we create a 3D model of that structure, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot, everything. There's technology in everything in land surveying.
Yeah. Well,
I think one of the things, if I could just touch on that
Sure.
just quickly, that's, one of the great things about Control Point and this group here, and really all the project managers here, is we're always constantly thinking about how we integrate technology. As Patty said, it's got to be the right tool for the right job, but that's also really an awesome and intriguing part of the job as a professional, is to look at and say, okay, we have all this technology available. What's the right technology? What's the right tool for this job? I mean, sometimes it's a hammer, right? Sometimes it's a laser scanner, right? And to have all that technology available to you is really fantastic.
Yeah, I think you put a point on it, Jim. People think of land surveying as boundary and topography, but it's much more than that. We do construction layout, we do geographic information systems, we do geospatial, we do UAV or drone work, we do subsurface utility engineering, we do work with drone boats and sometimes manned boats. So whatever your passion is, if you're interested in going and becoming a professional land surveyor, Control Point offers tremendous opportunities, professional development, career advancement. So I'd like you to consider that as you watch this video. So as we traversed the land surveying profession, to close the loop on this discussion, I want to thank Patty, Jim, and John. If you'd like to find out more information about land surveying in general or Control Point Associates specifically, we'll put a link to the website on this video. I want to thank everyone for watching today, and have a great day.